Hello guys, I hope you are fine. I hope this playlist is also fine. So in the last lecture we have discussed one of the very important service, that is NoSQL and Dynamo database. See, in the last lecture I also explained you how you can able to perform with the Dynamo database and how you can able to understand the concept of Dynamo database. So in that, what we have done, we have created the table of DynamoDB, and then we also created the table from the command line we have created in the last video. But did you observe one thing? In DynamoDB, when we are using, did we ever use the concept of compute? No. Did we used any, like, did we imported the compute? No. Did we created a server? No. So the place or the service where you doesn't use the compute is called as the serverless method. So the DynamoDB is what? It's a serverless approach. Means what? You don't need to create a server, but still you can able to access the data, or you can able to store the data. This is what we studied in the DynamoDB lecture. So today we will going to study about one very important concept, that is the AWS Lambda, which is also a serverless service. So what is AWS Lambda? AWS Lambda is a serverless concept. So what is the meaning of serverless? Like, without the help of server or without the need of server, you can able to extract the data from S3 bucket, and you can able to write the code and perform all the logics. What does this mean? AWS Lambda, I will tell you in very simple word. It is a platform where you can able to write the code and perform the deployment of the particular code that you have done. And that whatever the errors are there in the code, whatever the output that you get in the code, that you can see it from the Lambda service. So what is this Lambda all about? It's a serverless compute service. Means what? You don't need to create any compute instance. There is no need of creating compute instance. So that type of approach where it doesn't require any computeless service, that approach is called as the serverless approach. And DynamoDB and AWS Lambda are serverless approach, where you do not need to create computes. So this is the platform which tell how you can able to run the code in the cloud. Like, you are having a particular code, how you can able to run that code in the cloud. For that we will be using the AWS Lambda concept. So what is the AWS Lambda? If I say, it's a serverless compute service that allows you to run the code without managing the servers. So what happens? Without managing server means what? You don't need to perform, or you don't need to purchase any kind of computer instance. So what will happen when you write the code? AWS will internally manage the particular code that you wrote by using its own internal server. But here you don't need to manage the server. But it doesn't mean code doesn't need to manage the server. Code has to manage the server. But what happens is, like, here you don't have the authority to manage the server. This AWS will do by itself. So that's why it is called as serverless server. So simply upload your code and Lambda executes it automatically in response to event. So this is what the AWS Lambda will do like. So you only pay for the time that your code runs, making it incredibly cost efficient and scalable. Means the time where you run your code, where you test your code, only for that amount of time you have to pay the money. Rest all you don't need to pay the money for any virtual server. For anything you don't have to pay any money. So Lambda handles all the infrastructure, scaling and maintenance automatically. Everything it manages by its own, because AWS has programmed in such a way that people who ever use the AWS Lambda, without their involvement in managing the server, AWS will itself will going to manage the server. So this is about the thing. So how does this AWS Lambda works? AWS Lambda works on the concept of event triggers. So event triggers means what? Let's say if I click on this particular mouse, so an event should occur. So if I click my left side of the mouse, this is the left side of my mouse. If I click the left hand side of my mouse, then what will happen? If I click this mouse, a color of that particular code changes. If I click right mouse, the background color should change. These are nothing but the events. So now one of the event is, you can if you click the particular mouse, you can directly upload your data in the S3 bucket. You can request because this entire AWS Lambda works on the concept of API request, get and post request. It will be going to work. and you can also update the database using the DynamoDB, and you can use the CloudWatch events. So CloudWatch we're going to study now. See, these are some of the examples that doesn't require any compute and it's a serverless service. One is the S3, which is a serverless service. While creating S3 also, we didn't create any compute instance. For DynamoDB also, it's a serverless service. So for performing all of these things, even CloudWatch is also a serverless. So in today's lecture, we're going to understand what is the CloudWatch events. What is this CloudWatch events? This CloudWatch events help in identify whether our code is correct or not. Identify whether is code or correct or not. Code correct or not. Correct or not. Okay. So in Lambda, when we execute the particular code, the output of the code will going to save in this CloudWatch. And from CloudWatch, you can able to identify whether our code is correct or not. If any error is there, it will directly throw the error. If there is no error, then it will going to work properly. So now, what are the differences between server and serverless, and which you have to use? See, server management means what here? In EC2, you have to manage the server. You have to choose your own operating system. You have to choose your own virtual private cloud and all you have to choose. In Lambda, this everything is managed by the AWS. So your work will be reduced up to so much extent. Billing means what here? Pay per hour goes on. Means whenever every hour the payment will be cut. But here what will happen? Here pay when you execute the code. For that amount of time the code executes, for that amount you have to pay the amount. The third is what here? It is manual or auto scaling up. Means what? Every time you have to manually set up the server, manually you have to assign the VPC, manually you have to perform the server, manually you have to deploy. But here here everything be automatic here. Startup time is since you are doing everything manually, so it will take very large amount of time to start this process initially, but this happens in milliseconds. And for long running apps and for custom thing, we'll going to use EC2. But for event driven, for short duration tasks like executing normal Python task or AI, for basic tasks like NumPy, Pandas, you can use here. But for AI, you have to use the EC2 instance. Maintenance is like here everything you have to do. OS you have to do, everything you have to do. But here it will be handled by AWS. Here runtime limit is unlimited. Here it is only 15 minutes per execution, and only 512 MB of data is been allowed to put here in this particular Lambda service. So this is the differences that you have to study. So why Lambda is preferred? If you don't have any infrastructure management, if you don't want to manage anything, choose Lambda. Here auto scaling and on-demand execution is there here in this, and it is very cheaper for workloads, and it is integrated into most of the AWS services like DynamoDB, S3 bucket and all, it's there. That's why for these things, if you can choose the Lambda. So now we will going to see how you can able to create your Lambda function in AWS console. So for this, what you have to do, you have to go to your console. Here I will click on here I will go to search, and here I will write Lambda. One important thing I will tell you. Here in right side, if you click the star option, it will automatically show here itself. So every time you don't need to go and search here. You just click the Lambda function from here. And after you searching the Lambda function, what will happen? See, what Lambda function will do, it will allow you to write the code. So it will allow you to write code in any language that you want. Like C, C++, Java, Python, any language that you want, it will allow you to write. So how it will able to write? Because this, let's say if you want to use the Python. So what will happen here? This Lambda handler plays a very important role in connecting your AWS console and your Python code, and it will allow you to deploy a thing or run code in the cloud. For this, your Lambda handler plays a very important role. So what I will do here, first I click on the create function, because you have to create the Lambda function. So here if you see in the right hand side, here it will tell you this if you want to create a web app, it will give you the tutorial. So if you click on the start tutorials, it will tell you to tell what are the things that you have to perform here. Like you have to review the function code, invoke your thing. There are 2 steps. Then you have to click on these things. You will get some things like this. You can create the Lambda function. So what I'll do here, first I will write my function name. What function name I will write? I will write my function name as new web coding or cloud coding. I'll write cloud coding. This is my new Lambda function. Here I want to write the code in Python. So if I click on these things, these are the languages that this particular service supports. If you want to write some custom language, you can click on the Amazon Linux too. So here, if you want, you can select any language. If you want to click on custom, then it will ask you to choose the language, or what are the, like, it will support the languages like Go, Rust, any language that you want, you can able to do. But I want to use the Python 3.13, the latest one I want to use. Now here you have to choose the architecture that you want. You can choose ARM64 or x86. Now what is the difference between x86 and ARM64? In ARM64, what happens, like, let's say you are performing two tasks. Let's say you are performing the PPT, you are making the presentation, and you are, let's say, playing the game. If you use Intel, what it will do, it will use the entire power of CPU and GPU, and it will try to give the best performance. But what ARM processor does, it saves lot of power. It's very power efficient and use the ARM processor. In ARM processor, what happens, let's say if you are playing game at one time, and parallelly if you are running the PowerPoint presentation, then what it will do, it will stop the presentation for some particular time and it will only run the game. So what happens, the power consumption of the presentation will reduce, right? So that's why we will be going to choose ARM processor every time. In Mac also it supports ARM, that's why Mac has the good battery. So now here, if you want, you can change the, here you can able to create the roles also. But for now, I won't going to touch this. If you want, you can create a role, or you can existing a role, anything that you want, you can do here. If you want to use an existing role, go to IAM and we can able to change this. But for now, I am writing the create a new role for this. And if you want, you can add this VPC enable function URL, whatever. HTTP means what it will do, it will able to display this in the next bound based upon the security rules that we studied. Security governance also it's there. Tags, if you want, you can enable or not. But I don't want this, all of these things. Just I click on the create function. So if I click on the create function, it will take some time for you to create the function. Some 15-20 seconds it will take to create the function, Lambda function. But after 15-20 seconds, once it executes C, here it is showing the create the cloud function. If you want, you can connect to the other services, or you can test it, testing data. If you want, you can write all of these things. But for now, I want to dismiss this thing. See, successfully created in 15-20 seconds. Now, if I click on the refresh option here, now what will happen here, this Lambda function of 1 has been came here. So total 23 seconds it take to this thing. So that's why I told 15-20 seconds it will take. So now here I'll go to the cloud coding. So when I go to the cloud coding, what happened, in the downside there is an option called as code here. So what does this code do? This is nothing but the place where you can able to do the coding itself. So let's say if you see this particular thing is returning, right? The status code 200, body it is returning. So first we will see what this particular code is returning. If you by default open the test here, and if you see the bottom here you see that the JSON is looking like this. So what I will do here, the output will come in the form of JSON is what we think. So what I will do, I will remove this particular thing and I will just keep this as empty for now. Very important. Now what I will do, I will just click on the test function and I'll just click on the test option here. Just I'll click on the test option. So once you click on the test option, what it has happened, if you check on the details, here it is showing that body hello from Lambda has been successfully executed. Like in the form of dictionary or in the form of JSON, this thing has been executed. Why this thing has been executed? Because in code section, if you see here you have written the value as hello from Lambda. So what you are doing, this what this particular JSON.dubs will do, it will directly going to give this value in the JSON file as the output. So this is what it does. Now what happens if I write hello from here, let's say if I write hello from Saketh, let's say if I write, this is my name, I'll going to write hello from Saketh, I'll going to write, or else I'll write my channel name, Data King with Saketh, Data King with Saketh, let's say I will write here. Now what I will do, I'll going to click on test and I'll again click on the test. If you check the details, again it is showing hello from Lambda. Why it is not giving my particular name? Because you didn't deploy the changes that you have done. Meaning what? You written the code, but did you deploy this particular code? No, you didn't deploy this particular code. if you didn't deploy this particular code, means the changes that you have done in this code won't be reflected. So that's why it's very important for you to deploy this particular thing. So we'll click on the deploy function. So once you click on the deploy, what will happen here? The deployment is already taking in progress, means I just clicked on deploying. Now successfully updated the function thing, function cloud coding. Now you see that this particular thing has been successfully deployed and successfully updated the function as cloud coding. Means what? This cloud coding has been successfully updated. Now if I go to test and if I click on this test function here, now if you see the details, you see my name, Data King with Saketh. Means what? To do any change in the code, it is very important that you should able to deploy, then only the changes will work. Otherwise changes won't be reflected in your AWS Lambda. Very important thing. Now what I will do here, I will do one very trick thing. So let's say here before return I will write print as the hello statement, or else I will create a particular list. Let's say here I'll write a list 1 2 3 4 5 6 I created, and I just want to print a. So now what your a should give? A should give the 6 values, right? So what I will do, I'll click on the deploy. I'll click on the deploy because whatever the changes that you have done, this particular thing will be updated. Once the particular function is updated, what we will do here, we will go to the test function here. Here we will click on the test here. And now if you see, you'll feel shocked. Only you are getting this thing. Why I am not getting my list here? Where I will get my list here? Here if you see the bottom, here you are getting this particular list as the output, but here you are not getting. Means what? Whatever the thing that you write in the return, that only will be going to come here. Return, you enter the JSON value, right? If you, when whatever you write in the return, that only will come here. So where is the other output, sir? Where is that a list here? That list will be there, will be stored in this particular, if you CloudWatch, this list will be stored in the CloudWatch. So if you remember or not, I just taught you what is CloudWatch. If I click here what I taught here I taught CloudWatch. What is CloudWatch? It will identify whether your code is written correct or not. How it will going to identify? Here we'll click on this option called as click here, and once we clicked on here, what it will happen? Here you see that this particular log groups have been formed here. So what are the log groups? Log groups are nothing but the groups or the execution codes that we have done. Like, see how many times we have executed the code. We have executed 3 times. So just now we have executed this particular code. So if you execute this particular code, here you see you have shown this particular list. So here you see that here this particular thing is nothing but your output. So here you are getting the output, right? So what does this log groups will do? This log groups will tell whether the code that you have written, whether the code that you have been deployed, whether the code that you have been tested is correct or not. If it is giving the output, means the code that you entered is absolutely correct. And if you made some error here, if you made some error in the code, it will tell you have made the error. And every time when you click on this deploy button, every time you will going to see this type of log stream. Log stream means what? Every time you click on the deploy, the changes that you are finding in that code will be done here itself. So this is how your log explorer works. In Google Cloud we call it as log explorer. In AWS we call it as log groups, but both the functionalities are same only. So now what I will do here, I'll again go back to my Lambda here. Here in Lambda what we have done the cloud coding. And here, since we have deployed all of these changes, so here if I go back to the code, it will show the same code that we have wrote. That is the list only it will going to show because we have done the deployment. So let it load here. See, only this thing will show because we have done the deployment, means we have changed some parts in the code. But one important thing I want to tell you. Okay, sir, you have created the list and all. Now, can I import a particular module in this particular Python code? The answer is no. Because why we cannot able to import any particular module here? So for this what I will do here, let's say I will write import pandas as PD. Let's say here I am defining the pandas, and here I will create the list 1 2 3 4 5 6 I will write, and here I will write df PD dot data frame, and here I will write the value as x, and here I will print the value of df. So what it should able to give, it should able to print this value, correct? So now what I will do, I'll click on the deploy. I will click on the deploy. So now when I click on the deploy, what happened? This thing is been deployed. See here the deployment has been successfully done here. So now what I will do here, I will go to the test function here. In test, if you see, you will feel some shocker here. What is the shocker here? Let's say if I go to here and if I click on the deploy, means what happened here, if you go to test here and if I click on the test option here, you will find some error here that this unable to import the module lambda function, no module name pandas. Sir, what has happened here? Why this error came? This error came because when you creating the lambda function, you didn't added the option of layers. So what is a layer? Layer is nothing but in lambda function, layer is a property or layer is a method where you can able to import the Python modules or any module that is required for your code. Means what? Here if I go to my lambda here, if I click on my lambda function, if I go to my cloud coding here, in this what has happened here, I didn't imported the value as layers. Here you see this layer values are 0, means I didn't added the layers. Now if I click on the layers here, if you want you can add a particular layer. Now I want to, what is our requirement? We have to add pandas here because we don't have the pandas library installed here. So here I'll click on the add layer option. There are two options. Either you can add the AWS layers from the AWS that are given to you. Like what are the AWS that are compatible with your function, this AWS will given. If you want, you can able to specify the layer provided by the ARN, or you can able to choose the custom layers as per your requirement. I will choose the AWS layers as per the AWS that is suggesting me. If I click on here, here you see that as per ARM64, if I go here, like telemetry, pandas, lambda, if I go here, here you see that AWS SDK pandas is already been there here. So I'll click on what? I'll click on this particular AWS pandas. And here I'll choose the version. Let's say here this version is 4 is available in the AWS. Now what I'll do, I'll click on the add here. Now when I click on add here, you observe that here the option of layers is been showing 1. So now if I go to my code here and if I click on deploy here, let the code get deployed. If I go down, this code is deployed. Now since here I didn't done any change in the code, so there is no change to deploy. I'll directly go to test option. I'll now click on the test option. And now when I click on the test option, it will work. See here the executing details has been successfully done. Details, if you see, this is the status that we have. So if I go down here, this is how your data frame will look like. To check where the particular thing is there or not, you will go to the CloudWatch and you can directly see here. So either you can click here and you can directly see here, or you can go to the search option and you can type CloudWatch and see from there also. So if I go down here, you see this fifth one, just now we deployed, right? Just now we deployed, right? So here I'll click on this particular thing. And now if you see here, here you could able to see the data. Like if I see here, here the data has been successfully created. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 has been there. Here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is for the first index column, where you will give the number, right? First value, second value, third value, fourth value, fifth value, that are nothing but your values, and right is the value that we have created. If you still not believe, we will create some more values here. Here this is nothing but this sequence number. This is the value, this is the value, but left side are the sequence number. If you don't believe, what I will do in the code, instead code itself only, I will add some values. If you are not believing me, here I'll write A, B, C I will write. And since here I have done the changes, if I click on the deploy, it will ask you to, it will process the deploying code option. And once the code, now the successfully code has been deployed. If I click on the test, if I click on the test, if I click on the test option here, if I click on the details, if you see here, you see that here ABC has been displayed successfully. If you click on here also the log explorer or the log group, if I check, if I click on this thing here, if you see the ABC has been implemented successfully. So this is how guys you can able to play with the AWS Lambda. Now here if you want you can also, if you want, you can go to the official website of AWS where you can able to learn how you can able to connect your AWS Lambda with Amazon AWS CLI. In this course or in this playlist of AWS, I won't be going to teach this because this is not required for that much, where because here we will only going to code from here itself, we'll going to code and deploy. So from terminal again going to VS Code, then writing code and again deploying doesn't make sense. So that's why we don't need to implement this particular IAM in this Lambda function in terminal, as there is no need for particular this thing, as we are going to write the code from here itself. As if you see this particular if you go to this particular function and if I click on this cloud coding, the code that you are having is nothing but the VS Code only. This, if you see, it exactly looks like the VS Code only. So that's why there is no need for you to again write it from the terminal or from the VS Code and again you have to execute, because here you are having the inbuilt terminal. So that's why we won't be going to see the CLI thing for the Lambda service. If you want, you can, if you want to study more about this CLI, if you want to really want to do it, then this is the link that I am going to sharing, where I will be going to, where these are the things that you want to perform in your own console or terminal, and where it will tell you to add the Lambda layers, everything in the Lambda development guide. Like this you can able to see all of these things. So like if you want to add the CLI, you can use this particular document, but for this course I won't be going to use it. It is very complicated and there is no need for it, as we'll going to learn it from the console. So if I go to my notes here, in the notes just now we saw like what are the things, like for this you have to access the Lambda service, and you have to create the function, configure the settings, like Python or some other language. If you want, you can specify, you can set the permissions, and you can write the code and deploy. This is how you can able to create the Lambda function in the AWS console. Then what you have to do to add the particular Python library, you have to go to the layer tab. In that layer tab you have to layer function and just click on add a layer function, and you can add the pandas, or you can specify the ARN also from the clears project. If you want to know about the ARN clearance project, go to the here I'll write ARN AWS GitHub. If I type this thing here, you will get this ARN GitHub link, where it told how this particular ARN looks like, how it has been written. So if you want to study about it, you can directly study from this here. Then if I go to my notes back, like this it looks like this Clayers project, it looks like this. So now after you creating the particular layer, after executing the thing, you have to view the results on the CloudWatch logs. In the CloudWatch logs we have shared how you can able to watch the logs, what are the function logs group, what are the log streams, and view the printed output or error message that you have done here. Now if you see here, we have done the particular error also, like if before executing this thing we have not done the layer pattern, we have not done this. So to check the error, what you will do here you will just go click on one before the group. Like here we will go to log groups, and we will select the two before thing, because here we have done the error. Let's say if I click on this fourth thing, see here you have done the error, like you have unable to imported the NumPy module or some any kind of module, you have not labeled the pandas, that's why you got the error. So to identify the errors or to run the code, to get the correct output of the code, you will be using these logs. Very important. In GCP it is called as the log explorer. Now CloudWatch provides the comprehensive logging, allow you to debug the issues, monitor performance, track execution patterns over the time. Means just now you saw how the CloudWatch helps us in identifying the errors and debugging the errors. So now one important thing comes is the AWS Lambda pricing. You in free tier account, 1 million free tier requests of Lambda can be done. Like you can click 1 lakh times of deploy option here, and you will get 400k GB free seconds of compute time you will going to get, and monthly you will cost $0.2. But we won't be costing that much, as we will instantly going to delete this particular service. So billing means what, like pay per the request, it is nothing but the service that you use, based upon that you will going to pay. Duration means how much the code is code that has been executed, that execution time it will going to calculate. Memory it will provide up from 128 MB to 10 GB it will going to be. In free tier you will going to get only 128 MB of storage. So additional cost if you use S3 storage, custom lambda layers if you use, it will cost you more amount of formula. So to calculate the cost, this is nothing but the formula that AWS uses. So what are the advantages of AWS Lambda? Serverless architecture, cost effective, auto scaling, event driven. These all things we have discussed just now. Advantage is high availability, quick deployment is there, integrated logging is there, CloudWatch is there, for that's why it is an advantage. And it also supports the multiple languages, like you can write code in Python, Node, Java, Go, C++, any language that you want you can write. You can also use the security principles, security groups you want. You can also allocate the IAM permissions. In that we saw, right, IAM roles can also be generated. And you can also, based upon the event that you can able to do, event automation can be done. Like from S3 it will go to Lambda to DynamoDB, and it will execute that query from this particular code. Everything works from here itself. But the drawback is execution time limit. Only for free tier account, only 15 minutes it will give to execute. Like if you click on the deploy option, only for 15 minutes it can able to do the processing. After 15 minutes it won't able to deploy the particular application. Cold start latency means what? Sometimes first if you write very big application, it will take some initial time to start. That's why this particular thing is called as the cold start latency. Limited storage means what? In the free tier account for temporary files, only 5 and 2 MB has been allocated. Dependency management means like what? For let's say if you want to use NumPy, Matplotlib, Seaborn, or any kind of Python libraries. Like there is lot of, you have to install it via CLI, which makes it very complicated. There is no direct visualization is there. Let's say if you use the like from the AWS Lambda, it is going to S3 it is going to RDS. There is no diagrammatic way of showing, so that is the problem. And it is stateless nature, means doesn't return data between executions, require large amount of storage. It is required for code itself, it takes lot amount of storage to there. So these are some of the drawbacks of this particular AWS Lambda. So this is nothing but the entire AWS Lambda concept. I hope you understood this lecture. If you understood this lecture, please do like, share and subscribe guys, as it will encourage me to create more videos for you guys. So thank you guys.